happy Monday and happy Bank Holiday Monday if you're in the UK or Spain or wherever else it might be a holiday today. Terribly bad planning on my part, but amazing to have the most wonderful lineup of amazing data professionals who also happen to be women today. So we are going to be talking about how we got into the profession, what our experiences have been like, our successes, and also tips for anyone who's thinking about either starting or is at the start of their journey and wants to know where to go next. So without further ado, I'm going to invite on all my guests and then I will let them introduce themselves. So good morning, good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi, Susan.
So I am going to just start the way it's listed on my view. So Caroline, if you want to introduce yourself, although if everyone here has been watching the Data Den, I'm sure they'll remember you've been on before. Batman.
Got to be Batman. I was about to say, I'm Batman. Hi, everybody. I'm actually Caroline Crothers, not Bruce Wayne, but I'll explain that in a second, I promise. I'm the co-author of books like The Chief Data Officer's Playbook and Data-Driven Business Transformation. I'm also the chief executive of Carruthers & Jackson, which is a global data consultancy. I run the CDO Summer School for data leaders. I do data talks and a partridge in a pear tree.
Brilliant, thanks. Christina, how about you?
Yeah, so for those that don't know me, I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so very well known, especially for the Book a Week challenge. But professionally, I've been at Google for the past like 3.5 years, but actually last month I changed roles within the company and I'm working as an analytical lead at Waze, the navigation app. And then besides that, I'm involved a lot in education. So I teach at a couple universities here in Madrid. I'm based in Madrid, Spain, originally from the US. And then I do a lot of public speaking, lots of panels like this. I'm very active in the analytics community.
Thanks. And you still blow my mind with a book a week. Like I can't even do a book a year. So yeah, absolutely.
We'll get you there.
Yeah. How about you, Kimberly?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Harrington. I'm a data journalist at a large healthcare organization, and I'm also the creator of Buffalo Business Intelligence, which is a word-of-mouth networking group that we have people from all over, actually, not just in Buffalo, that come to our virtual/hybrid events now, where we talk about data and analytics, and it's free to everyone that comes. I am passionate about social determinants of health and data storytelling. So I am really excited to be with everyone here. Most people know me from LinkedIn, just from my other posts that I post up on there. I am also the 2020 Data Literacy Advocacy Champion.
That's awesome.
Last but definitely not least, Ms. Strachny.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. Kate Strachny. I'm the founder of Datacated, which really includes a dedicated media partnership company, the Datacated Academy, as well as the more recently added Datacated Conference. And we do have an event coming up, which I have to plug here, Susan, on May 18th to 19th, an industry style conference. I'm extremely passionate about data visualization, data storytelling, and really just all things data analytics, data science, AI, machine learning. I simply can't get enough of the space. I also love reading, but not a book a week. I can probably run a marathon a week if I had to, but I can't read a book a week. So that's really inspiring, Christina.
Yeah, I'll just be the cake aficionado of the group. That will be my thing.
There you go.
So we're all kind of hang around on LinkedIn and we kind of know each other, but to come together is pretty awesome. How did you all get started in data? Did you find data or did it find you like it found me? Anyone wants to go first?
I can go ahead.
Kim, go on.
We're all so eager, you guys. That's great. I love it. Let's go for it. Yes. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Hey, Scott.
I know we got our little tribe for this. So actually, data kind of found me. I don't know about you guys, but when I get mad, I like to get numbers. So my data career actually started when I was a medical secretary, and I couldn't control the flow of patients through an x-ray clinic that was next to us. So I ended up having my patients, whom I could control, write down what times they were going through the different functions, so I could then tell a better story to the administrators next door to say, this is what we need to be able to proceed faster so we could help people.
Wow.
And that was my first data story that I had told in a professional setting. But that really kind of just set things on fire for me. From there, I was able to get a job as a senior data analyst at a healthcare organization. From there, rocketing on to being their first business intelligence coordinator, where I set up some data governance initiatives for really kind of teaching people what it was, and also teaching people about value-based payment, value-based reimbursement. From there, I was brought on to another mental health organization where I pretty much did the same stuff all over again. And now I'm at my new organization where I am the very first data journalist in all of Western New York, to my knowledge.
That is pretty cool. And also, we haven't really spoken about the dresses yet.
Ah, yes.
I am
wearing my Pi Day dress today.
Okay.
Love me some Baja.
Yeah. Kimberly has the most amazing kind of data math related outfits that you'll ever see.
Miss Frizzle.
Cool. Yeah. Caroline, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I have to admit, I started on the dark side. So I started with IT, kind of came through the IT space, program director, all that kind of stuff. And just got a bit frustrated with it because it didn't matter how many new bits of fancy fangled IT I put into place. I wasn't really solving the root problems because the root problems were being caused by the data, and being a bit of a problem solver by nature, that was incredibly frustrating. So that's how I started going onto the data side to really fix the problems, not just put sticky plasters over the top of them. I worked with one organization who I got incredibly frustrated with, not their fault. It was mine from a whole, you really need to tackle this problem properly. And I came up with this business case on what they needed to do, and I handed it to them, and obviously it was very convincing because they went, great, yes, you go and do it. And I went, no, that was for you to put like people in to fix this problem properly. And they went, yeah, but it's your idea, so you can go and run and do it. So I kind of got handed it by mistake and then completely fell in love and refused to give the title back. So that was okay.
Sounds good. How about you, Christina?
For me, it was really a perfect fit because I've loved technology and numbers from a young age. When I was growing up, my favorite subject was math. I was the weirdo who liked doing math exercises on the weekend. And then later on in my studies, I studied statistics. I was always studying more technical fields. Back then, it wasn't well-known data science. It was more statistics. But my studies were always technical. It led very well into a career in analytics. So for me, the path was obvious. It also wasn't typical at the same time because I moved abroad. I developed my entire career in another country and in another language.
Yeah, but, so you literally didn't speak the language when you moved, did you? You had to learn it from scratch.
Yeah. I developed my career mainly in Spanish in Spain. So it made it a little bit tougher, but I think that helped. I mean, it helped me grow a lot. But for me, working with data was just a very obvious and easy fit.
Great. And Kate?
Yes, so
extraordinaire.
Yeah, so actually data found me. I never sought out to get into data analytics, data science. What happened was I was working at a Big Four consulting company focused on regulatory compliance and risk management for financial services organizations. And I was expecting my first child. So I remember clearly thinking to myself, oh goodness, I actually want to see my children grow up. So how do I get out of this client service gig where I have to work all, weekend and nights and travel? So I looked internally within the company. It's a huge company, obviously. And it took me almost the entire 9 months of the pregnancy to find a role that will allow me to work remotely. And at that point, I really didn't even care what that role was, as long as it kept me home, kept me, with an income and allowed me to see my kids. What happened was it ended up being an insight strategy manager role where I got to play with data for a living and it was truly love at first sight. I got some data, I got some data visualization tools, and I'm like, wow, this is what I want to do. And I'm not going to say forever because things change, but for a very, very long time. So been in love with data ever since. It's been 7 years now because my daughter is almost 7. So yeah, that's my story.
I think it is something that you have to love. And I think we're probably all natural problem solvers, which is probably why we love data so much. And, Kim and Caroline, you certainly kind of fell into it because you had a problem to solve. And then my whole business started because I had a problem. I couldn't find a job doing what I wanted to do, so I just made one up. So yeah, Kate had a problem, she needed a gap to fill, and then Christina's always loved it. So perfect. So has it been an easy road for you guys? So like for me personally, I just I don't see myself as different to anyone else. I just treat myself and everyone else as equals, and I've never really had a problem. I've been kind of patronized and talked down to a little bit, but you just kind of dust yourself off and smile and go, yeah, I'll see you when I'm rich and you're still here. So just wondered what your journeys have been like.
I'll briefly share since it's on topic of what I shared earlier about the children. I remember early in my career, this is probably a year or two out of college, I was very focused on increasing my personal education. So Christina, you know how you love books? I used to love certifications. I would try to get every certification out there, the CFA, the CPA, the FRM, whatever. There were risk-related, finance-related, even data-related certifications. And I remember it was a director at a company that came up to me, and he's like, Kate, why are you wasting all your time trying to like get an MBA or get all these certifications? You're just going to put them all up on your wall, have kids, and do nothing with your life. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, no, I am proving you wrong. So he said it kind of as a joke, and all these things typically come out sort of as a joke, right? But I took it seriously. I'm like, that is not going to be me. I will get the certifications, but I will also actually do something with them.
And knowing you absolutely deliver when you say you're going to do something.
Susan, can I share? Because I've got something, Kate, that just comes across so like that.
Go for it.
I was 18. I'm a miner's daughter from the northeast of England. So I grew up in what we call the colliery rows. So lots of small houses next to each other, terrace rows. Loved my upbringing, so this is not a sub story, I promise. But I walked out the back garden, which was attached to the next house, and my next door neighbour came out, and I'd literally just found out I'd been accepted to university. And like Christina, I was a maths geek as well, so I went and did my university degree in maths and computer science, and so full of myself, so proud that I was going to university. Walked out, and this little old man stood next to me, and he went, I heard you're going to university. And I went, yeah. And I was so, can you imagine 18, sort of like big smile on my face, waiting for a compliment. And he just looked at me and went, wow, you're not that ugly.
Well, that's a compliment, right?
I was like, it's the most backhanded compliment I think I've ever had before or since.
And he probably said it with humor, right? Was he trying to be funny? Because
no, he genuinely
was.
I
can imagine, an old generation,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
He could not understand why I would waste my time going to university because I should just get married, right?
Yeah.
But I have to say, that was a long, long time ago. I'm not quite that old that the dinosaurs roamed the earth, but it was a long time ago. I do think things have improved significantly since then.
As a former professional improv comedian, I can tell you that is not as funny as it should say that person thought it was going to be for this man, actually improv helps quite a bit in this path because, you all know we're all problem solvers. We're all thinking of current and existing scenarios and how they can change. So especially like you think about when the pandemic, you had to new choice every solution. Okay, we can't work at work. New choice. Well, let's work from homes. Let's work remotely. We're always thinking up new ways to solve these different issues. When it comes to other aspects of the career journey too, I've built upon my experience. I was a huge Gartner geek. when I was at nonprofits, I couldn't get a Gartner subscription. So what I did was I've like took all of their free webinars and I just would watch all of them right when they would come out. And that's actually how I learned about data literacy from the beginning, was just, from those free webinars that they would offer, and like, then learning more from Val Logan, and learning more from Jordan, just really expanding the network too. So it's about looking at all the different free webinars and content out there, and then just following those thought leaders. So I get really upset if I can't find an author about something that I absolutely love, because I want to like connect with the community of those people that are working on it. One of the great things that happened to me was connecting with these lovely ladies on your screen. I feel so privileged to get to interact with these women every day in one small way or another. And it's just really great to make sure that you get to be parts of these communities.
And within, like, you started out in medical, was because I guess traditionally more men around, did they take you seriously?
Okay, so
first?
In particular, so I worked as an orthopedic hand surgeon secretary.
Oh my goodness.
When you talk about, like the doctor chain, you think of the orthopedic surgeons, at least in my area, or like the top of the food chain, and those kinds of surgeons. Surgery is very much a boys' club. My father was a physician, so I wanted to be a physician growing up. So I went into like pre-med, and I took my minor as in business, so I wouldn't get jerked around by like hospital administrators. That was my thought. But then I realized I was actually really good at the business side of medicine. And I really kind of came into it with a thought process of I wanted to take care of the doctor that I worked for the same way that I wish an administrator had taken care of my father. So, I was trying to help him like tell the data story to the rest of his partners. He's a new doctor to the practice, and the other ones are looking at him saying, well, why can't you see more patients faster? Like, so they're yelling at him. I have patients in my, in the waiting room. I'm missing my lunch because there's a kid that needs his arm set and he's crying his eyes out, and waiting for an x-ray. It was just, data can help solve these things. So, you use that to fuel your passion.
Cool. What about you, Christina? Because I guess not only are you kind of working in data, but you're also in another country where there could be different, I guess, cultural differences that you might not have anticipated.
Yeah, definitely. So I can, first of all, the comments that were made, especially by Caroline and Kate, about these more negative comments, that's definitely happened throughout my life. There's been ups and downs, but I've definitely had comments around that. I remember when I was studying my bachelor's, but this was back in the US, I originally started in engineering before I changed to statistics. And I was in the engineering hall, one of the main buildings where the students go. And someone stopped me and said something along the lines of like, this is the engineering hall. Are you looking for a different department? And I was like, no, I know where I'm at. I'm in the right place. Trust me. So there's been these just kind of comments that people might not, I don't know if they mean negatively or positively, but I guess the biggest thing, you have to learn to just go push beyond it. You have to ignore these comments. And for me, the biggest thing is teaching people, like setting them straight. And like Kate does. Kate says something and she goes for it 250%. Yeah. So I try to always do that, prove people wrong. And then what you mentioned about working in another country, for sure, I've had a lot of like cultural barriers, a lot of shocks working in a different culture, which has definitely been difficult. It's just added another notch of difficulty. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's something that has helped me grow a lot. You have to learn to accept others as they are. And in my case, it was like the opposite. I was definitely the other. I mean, in most cases, I am the only American in the room. Usually everyone is Spanish. I'm the American. And I need to find a way to like fit into their cultural standards, but at the same time, not lose myself. And that's been something that I've been over years trying to learn how to balance.
Yeah, I was on a panel last week, and she had said that when she goes to pitch she's with other large consultancies, and she doesn't look like anyone else in the room. And I was like, there at some point, and I don't really know when it was, I decided that I didn't want to be like anyone else in the room. I was going to go the complete opposite way. So rather than try to blend in, I decided to completely stand out from everyone else, and just totally be me. And it could have absolutely failed, but fortunately it seems to be working. So I'm very thankful for that. But I think that's probably, you know, even like 5 or so years ago, I think there's more of a cultural change now. I don't see as much of that now, or certainly not openly. I think there's, and I see a lot more young women coming into data, which is really exciting to see as well. So I think it's going to balance out a lot more.
I think, sorry, Susan, I just think there's been a seismic shift almost on a lot of those kind of responses. And while I'm not saying it's perfect, I do think that the world has changed really dramatically since I stood outside my garden gate and had that stupid comment said to me. You know, I don't think we're facing quite the same level. And just because there might still be a bit further to go on the journey, doesn't mean we shouldn't recognise how far we've come.
Yeah,
actually, it really is.
Yeah, thinking of something else. So when I was at school, I was one of 3 girls in a class, in the computing class of like 25. And that was my favourite class. I did really well in computing, which sounds so like old-fashioned. And when it came to work experience week, the things that I put down were things like administration, IT, you know, things like that. Never been interested in having kids, never been interested in kids really. And they stuck me in a nursery for a week. And it was just like loads of girls, we were all just put in this nursery. So sometimes I think you just have to kind of, follow your dream and just push through and just go for it. But I think that's hope. I would hope that things like that don't happen in schools anymore.
I hope not.
Yeah. Now I did see a good question from Ravit on the positive side of things, because that's always good. What's an experience that's most memorable and makes you happy being in the data field?
I've got one that comes to mind right away. My goal is to make people cry with data. And I mean tears of joy. I was working at a clinic where we had people that were dealing with substance use and disorders, and so we have the incoming call line. And right, being a former medical secretary, I can relate to these people that are dealing with that first line call, people not being in the best emotional state and just trying to help them. And so by the end of the year, you know, you can feel bruised and battered and just like are questioning, why are you doing this? You know, why are you trying to help people like to get into these different appointments? And I could really kind of sense that the morality was pretty low. I was working on a separate data project to like map the data flows through that organization. And I realized that there was just this morale thing that was happening there. So I had asked the supervisor permission to create a personalized data stories for each person that was working actually in that department. So we made individual bookmarks for every person that was on the call team, and with their name, you know, the total numbers of calls that they had handled in the past year, what percentage of those calls actually turned into first visits and then turned into people actually that completed the programming, and how many lives that person ultimately saved. And so when we were able to actually take that data into that team meeting and hand each person their individualized laminated bookmark with their name and their individual stats on how they had helped, that was just a huge win for me of helping people really change things using that personalized information.
And for me, I would say it's not one memory. It's actually happened to me quite a few times. So I teach, like I mentioned before, I teach on the side. And when I'm teaching classes, it's happened quite a lot that towards the end of my course, we'll be finishing up classes and students will come to me at the end of class wanting to talk to me, and they'll just thank me and tell me what a good time they had in my class. Many times these are people without a technical background, because I teach in MBA programs. And these will be people from law, from business, from who knows what, but no exposure to big data analytics. And they'll come to me and tell me, thank you so much. You've opened my eyes to so much going on in the world that I didn't even know about. And now you've given me this want and this need to learn more about it. So for me, especially, I get very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling to be in education and to see the faces of my students and how much they change from the beginning being very maybe shy and hesitant about the subject to the end of the course where they're just so excited and they're ready to learn more. So for me, that's one of the things I love the most, and one reason that I'm going to probably forever continue in education.
I think the standout for me, and I think that Christina, that resonates so much as well, because it's brilliant to be able to physically meet people as well that you interact with. But I think it's a sense of community that we have around data that I absolutely love. You know, this is a male and female thing. I don't think I've come across anybody that wouldn't help if I asked for help or pitched in, or, you know, this is, I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but just there is this fantastic sense of community.
Yeah.
That we're all in this together, and we can do more with data, so we're all just kind of working together to solve this big icky problem.
Yeah, and I almost forgot, but tomorrow I think they announced the Data Leader of the Year. It's between you, myself, and a couple of other people.
Well, that'll be a fun one. Well, congratulations whoever wins.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll be happy for whoever's in there. But yeah, it's not competitive. And you know, you've been really supportive, Caroline. Well, you've all been really supportive, but Caroline especially. You know, there's a book because of Caroline. She supported me and pushed me on. So yeah,
I encouraged that.
You did.
Your work, I just encouraged it.
How about you, Kate?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to 100% agree, especially with Caroline, and because my favorite memory, and it's an ongoing memory for the past 7 years, is the welcoming data community. And ever since day one, where I basically was like, hey, maybe I should get into data science or analytics, and started reaching out to people, from that point, every single person has been so generous with their time, with their advice, with any sort of, like, let's say, hey, you guys want to speak at my conference? I know Christina and Susan, you guys have participated, and it's just such a great feeling knowing that you can go to almost anybody and ask them for something or support. And clearly I tried to support everyone else as well, but it's just such a happy place for me, this whole data community, that's got to be my favorite memory.
Yeah, I'd agree there. And something I've worked with my coach is that for a long time I didn't think I was a data person because I had never done any data work. I'd just been working on procurement data and just kind of self-taught, and so my skills I always just thought were very specific to me. So, you know, when I started posting and the whole data community like really got on board, I was like, oh, and even then I still didn't, I was like, but I'm not a data person. And my coach was like, do you do data things? And I was like, yeah. She's like, then you're a data person. You know, it's because there's so many different layers to data. It's such a big word, and it encompasses so many different things. And so, I just always felt like I'm so lucky to be welcomed into the data group, you know. So that was really, really great for me.
It's a bit like feeling like you're at the cool kids table, right? When you're at the data tables. I don't know. I like it because we're in the room, like finally making decisions, rather than, you know, you go from being an analyst to running just the basic reports to moving up to actually being in the room where the thought discussions are happening. The room where it happens, right, ladies?
Absolutely.
So what about personal successes? Like, what if you could say that, like, there's one thing that you have been super proud of related to data, what would it be?
I'll say mine because it's obvious and it's easy. It's just the fact that I made a career in data and in another country. For me, I've always been very proud of that, learning a language from zero and then establishing myself in another country. And this is very giving the message to others that you can do it too. No matter what barriers you have, just set yourself that goal and go for it.
I think mine's would be, sorry, Caroline, was it you?
No, I don't know who spoke it. I
was just going to say, well, yeah, for me, I had no connections and just set up my data business and just had a really good feeling that I was onto something. yeah, I'm really proud of that because, you know, a lot of people would have probably given up in a lot less time, but I kind of pursued it, and here I am with all you lovely ladies.
I think mine is similar to yours, Susan, because it has to be with going with the fact that I took a chance on myself to try and succeed on my own with the business. And I think the thing I'm most proud of these days is the ability, for the most part, to control my own schedule and calendar versus having to go to someone and say, hey, can I, move this call or get this time off? It's literally 100% driven by me and my clients. Clearly, there's always going to be the clients that you have to take care of, but yeah, that's going to be what I'm mostly proud of.
I think what Kate said is huge about the ability to be flexible in your schedule is definitely something to be proud of, to create that kind of environment. I'm fortunate with that, of being, the first data journalist in this area, to be able to kind of set the tone and show the role, what these roles can be. Going from the point of being a Gartner geek, going with free, webinars and stuff like that, to now a point that I have a representative that I can talk to now, and I can hear them, furiously scribbling notes as I tell them about what I do. So making that kind of happen. Those things are really great. I'm also really proud that I created the Buffalo Business Intelligence community without necessarily being the best at business intelligence at the time. Like, I started that when I was 9 months pregnant, was our first meeting that we had. But it was really, I was looking for a Tableau tutor and I couldn't find anyone. And even a local consulting group couldn't help me find somebody to pay out of pocket that I could just meet with to learn these data visualization tools. And I said, well, if I can't find the room that I want to be in, then clearly I have to create it. And by doing that, I was able to really find a group of people that I have never resonated with before in my entire life, from school. When you're growing up, you've got friends that you can play with, and, in middle school and college, you're looking for your people. It wasn't until I started that group that really helped me find where I felt like I belonged.
Caroline?
I think for me, it's got to be summer school. So this is summer school's in its 4th year now.
So do you want to just tell us a little bit more about it? Because I actually felt really left out last summer that I wasn't part of it, because I just was on the outside looking it in, and I was like, this looks like so much fun.
Sorry, Susan. Summer school, it's a free resource we run every year. It's our give back to the data community. So it's based on the books that Peter and I write. We've completely rewritten it this year, which seemed like such a good idea at the beginning of the year, and I'm really regretting my life choices now, but never mind, it'll be worth it. And it's for data leaders to basically learn or augment their skills as data leaders. So it's how to write data strategies, it's what the teams you put together. You get homework. No, I don't mark it. People actually ask me to mark their homework. I'm not marking anybody's homework. There's 450 of you on this course. I'm not marking homework. But I love it. I love the idea behind summer school was that they don't just learn from me and Peter, they learn from each other. So being part of that community and pulling data leaders from all around the world together to learn from each other is just absolutely awesome. And now, because it's been running for about 4 years, people come up to me at conferences or send me emails and thank me because they've just got their first chief data officer role or their first data leader role, and they say it was down some sort. And honestly, it's the most awesome feeling in the world to think you might have actually helped somebody a little bit.
That's brilliant. And when's the summer school running this year?
Summer school starts on June the 17th. Applications are open. If anybody's interested, get it from our website, carethersandjackson.com. Cool. There you go. There's my little plug. See, we've all got something in there.
That's brilliant. So, and this is for everybody watching, not necessarily just women, but what kind of skills do you think are necessary that you need to work in data? Or do you think it depends on the type of data role that you're working within?
I actually wrote a few down. I knew you were going to ask this question, so I actually got.
That's weird because that just popped up into my head, so that's a bit spooky.
Yeah, it's like I just thought, well, you've got to ask about that one. So we've actually started to talk about some of them for me. So I think curiosity is a really key skill for anybody working in data.
Yeah.
You've just got to be curious and want to get to the idea of the root problem, and that's where the whole problem solving stuff comes in. And I also think you need to be very resilient, because you will come across a lot of data doubters and people who don't get it, and you've got to try different ways of communicating it, and that's where the storytelling, and hi Scott, I know you're on there, that's where the whole data storytelling side comes from, and just make sure that you can get your point across with data. And then it's about being authentic, because you've mentioned this as well, about actually you get on better when you're yourself. I don't know about anybody else on here, but when I tried to pretend to be like everybody else and in big corporates, my career was okay, but nothing brilliant. When I stopped trying to pretend and was just the unedited Caroline, and I know people may regret that bitterly, but it made a difference. That was when things started to change for me. And I think we need to have a bit of fun, because data is fun and it's interesting and it can do some amazing things. So I have a bit of fun. And the last thing, and it kind of comes back to the community, is we all help each other out. So be a little bit humble and just, be able to give as well as receive. So I'm not sure that was quite answering your question, but I think,
actually my biggest one would have been curiosity. I think that's a real driver.
Yeah, Caroline, you took all the good ones. But
I'm really sorry. I never prepare for anything. So the fact that I did, I was like, ooh, I've written something down. I've got to get this out.
I'm so proud of you.
I think the one thing that I would add is patience, because a lot of times when we work with data, it's never really the way we want it to be, right? We might not have the right data. We might have missing values, unstructured data, and giving yourself the time and really being patient with yourself as you learn the new skills, as your data goes crazy on you, Susan, as your spreadsheets collapse and freeze for the next 4 hours. So I definitely add patience to that list.
That's great.
You're taking all of the good ones. So I'm going to add one more before it gets taken as well. I would say like communication, being a good communicator or learning how to express your ideas well. Maybe it's not necessary for everyone, but for many positions, this can help get you farther in your career. Learning, especially how to explain like complex ideas or ideas maybe related to the insights that you're finding in the data, but being able to connect them to the business.
Great idea.
Christina, I'm gonna jump off of you. Yes, as a data storyteller, so communication, I definitely agree with you. A bit more specific on that too is I like to think about multi-generational communication, because we're thinking about our workforce now that we have, and it spans a number of different generations, and the way that each generation speaks to each other and interprets information is different than one another. So we have to be very in tune to the audience that we are communicating with and what their specific needs are. So whereas you might text or tweet someone else, you might email someone else. So you have to kind of keep that in mind across your different platforms to where you're communicating that information. When you're looking at this, we're also thinking about another one of critical thinking and creativity as being so important in this role. We need both of those things as we strive to seek, solicit, and speak information. So just those three skills in and of itself, of like going to find where you go to find existing information, that's a skill. How to solicit information as to how to know where to go to ask somebody for help, to request that new information, that's difficult. And then speak information has to do with that communication across different generations.
Cool.
And I would add to that, actually, I really like that, what you said, multi-generational communication. That's a really good point. And I would add to it as well, multicultural communication. This has been super important for me because I've, with one of the universities that I work with, IE Business School, they've flown me to other countries to do public speaking tours for them, where I'm going and giving classes and speeches in other countries. And I've been to countries as diverse as like Russia, Jordan. And when I go there, I research a little bit about the culture and what they're familiar with when it comes to data or technology, because it can change a lot depending on the country that you're in or where you're coming from.
Actually, it's funny you say that, because they're just going through my book and de-Susaning it a little bit, just for like a more global audience, making sure that there's not too many Scottish terms and references in there that literally nobody else in the world will get.
Come on, I want at least a page of like Robin Williams style, like Scottish accent that we can't understand a word of it, and then a translated page.
I'm sure there's a few
little stories at the back that she could add in, going, "This is the stuff they made me take out."
Yeah, yeah, the unedited version. Yeah, I had a really good question from Matthew actually. As data science practitioners and thought leaders, how do you see the field progressing in the next few years? Specifically, do you see the role of data science generalists being superseded by more focused roles? Who wants to take that one on?
I can start. Yeah, I do believe that there is starting to be a trend where maybe generalists are not as common. So you won't see a person maybe getting out of school trying to become just a general data scientist, where it's easier to sometimes find a focus area that you're going to do a deep dive in. Like, do you want to do programming, or do you want to live on the data visualization side of things, or do you love classifying data, right? So it's like, where are you in that data science process, for example, and then focusing in on those specific areas, building out those skill sets, because chances are you're going to be part of a larger team, especially at bigger organizations where they have a built out data science function. And you will still need to understand the roles and the responsibilities and processes across the entire data science process. But I have started to see more specialization, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And even as a short time ago, as 4 years ago when I set up the business, there were not many organizations that had a business intelligence analyst or department. In the last few years, that has now just exploded, which has been great for me, because that was one of the services that I never really offered. I was doing the bit before that. Everyone else was always focusing on the sexy dashboards. And yeah, so I think because of that, there are definitely a lot more specialisms now than before, because there's a lot more people doing it.
I'm seeing specializations as well, but I also think that it's still fairly easy to change too. So just because you specialize in something, it can also help open your eyes. I mean, changing your role, changing your specialization is very possible. And I think it's also good for you to get exposed deeply, maybe to 2 different specializations instead of just one.
Yeah, I completely agree, Christina, because I think the topic's still able for us to move, but I do wonder going forward, as the topic, as data just gets bigger and bigger and more, complicated as it goes, how we'll be forced into more specializations. But I completely agree that being able to move between them actually is where you learn the skill inside out. And it's that breadth that I think can make you really special.
Have any of you guys seen the Netflix special, The Creative Brain, by David Eaglehart, Dr. David Eaglehart? What they're talking about in that Netflix documentary was about how, in order for us to be truly creative, we have to have all of these different range of experiences for us to draw upon, to make new connections upon. When you're really thinking about innovation, we have to think about taking one piece from this area versus one piece from this area. Like, I was growing up, I'd never in a million years would have said when I was like 3 years old, oh, I'm going to be a data journalist when I get older, right? But I do know that I loved talking about how to best communicate with others. I liked writing a lot. I liked writing. I was part of a creative writing club, but I was also really into showing people how to use PowerPoint, because I was part of the generation that grew up, being the first ones to actually understand how to use things like Microsoft and PowerPoint. And
can I just say, does anyone else remember acetates on the overhead projectors?
Oh yeah.
You had to write out your own presentations, and then if you made a mistake, sorry, just sidetracking there.
I love that. Do you the transparencies? Is that what you're talking about? Like for the acetate? Yeah. So I like using that analogy now when I'm talking about geospatial information, because people don't really understand how indexes work when you're looking at different layers of maps. So you use that knowledge of like, okay, do you remember when you had transparencies back in school? Okay, that's that first layer of the map that you're looking at. Okay, now let's look at the next piece and the next piece. And now we're looking at the overview. Yeah.
Oh, those were the days. And then there came a point where you could print on them. You didn't have to just write on them, and that was like, whoa. technology has come so far since then. Anyway, that was a complete sideswipe. So if you were looking to get into any kind of area or role within data now, what advice would you give to any young person starting out?
I guess I'll start. I'm very big on building your own brand. So I think no matter where you are in your career, whether you're still in school or you maybe are a data scientist or you're working as another, in another field and want to get into the space, no matter where you are really or what you want to do, I think building the brand of what you want to be is very important, or at least show your community what kind of things you want to focus on. And I'll give you an example. Like it's, cake, Susan, you mentioned cake. So my sister started a caking business where she was making these custom cakes. And she would constantly post about this on Facebook and Instagram. And even our family and the whole community kind of learned to know that, oh, Natalie makes cakes, right? And it just became this association. Oh, birthday coming up, we call her because that's that's the cake person. So be the person, right? Like I wanted to become the data person, the data visualization, the data storytelling person. So I would constantly either have conversations on the topic, share articles on the topic, or just really building that brand so that when people think of you, they kind of start to associate you with the kind of stuff that you talk about. So I think getting started with that as soon as possible and building that community around yourself is so helpful, because I can't tell you how easy it probably would be for me to just get a job if I really wanted to, because of the number of organizations that I'm kind of friends with at this point, or people that I know who know me and know how passionate I am about the space. Clearly, you still have to be good at what you do. You can't just be, talking about it. But I think it definitely helps if you have that brand established.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry. Mind blank. I was going to say something really. Oh, I was going to say patience is really important with that as well, because that building that brand is not going to happen overnight. So, just give it time.
Yeah. One last quick thing. There was somebody who recently said, "You're so lucky you have 150,000 followers because now this is easy." And I'm like, yes, it was luck. I found a penny on the floor. It was facing the right way, and that's how that happened. So it's not luck. It's definitely patience and hard work.
And I would say +1 to everything already said. And especially for people just starting out in the field, being like vocal on platforms like LinkedIn is great. But also if you are like a student, get involved with your school. So get involved with student organizations, with your club, help put on events. And that's also another easy way to get your voice out there and also to get you involved with your local community.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with that. It's getting a sense of community. There's so many people willing to help, offer a leg up, answer questions. That just ask, dive in. Water's lovely.
Something I always say, and people find that the hardest thing is that they can't get a chance because they don't have the experience.
Oh, no.
Something that I did when I started this business was I was on freelancer websites and I was taking the poorly paid jobs just to get some experience working with other bits of data, and then that's something that I can put on my CV. So there's loads of ways. Offer to help your friends out for free. Just get some experience. Play. There's lots of data sets available now that you can download online, especially in the UK. Like all the public sector government information is available to download, so you can happily play with
a charity. Work with the third sector.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about.
There's a lot of organisations would happily take help.
And figure out what you're passionate about with that. Like, I agree with Caroline. That was actually the very next point on my tongue was find an organization that you care deeply about, or if you see there's an injustice that you think is wrong, use information to fix it. Like, why not you? Like, rather than thinking, well, why would it be me, or I have to get through these barriers? No, just go ahead and get started. A great example for this is at the very beginning of the pandemic, I knew that there was 18.6% of Western New York that was going to be without internet access. Could I myself bring internet access to all of Western New York? No. But I did have in my head, I had connections to various people that owned, IT companies that could open up like a Wi-Fi hotspot. I knew I'm pretty good at writing down some stuff, and I've built some websites, and I have a pretty robust community. So what I did was I set out to go to a parking lot and set up a Wi-Fi hotspot at the beginning of the pandemic, just to do one thing. So what's the one thing I can do is I could set up a Wi-Fi hotspot in a parking lot. Did I succeed at bringing internet to that community? No, I actually failed. There was not very many people that actually came to that Wi-Fi hotspot. However, me just being there and me like showing up and showing that, hey, I'm going to be here to offer internet, that first Saturday. Then the next Saturday after that, and somebody said, oh, well, we have art kits to give to kids. And people came for the art kits. Then the next week, people were like, we need masks. So people came to get masks the next week. And it just built upon that until at one point we were giving over 720 bags of food to people to come get this. And while we had known about the internet on this aspect, so I was like so focused on, getting internet to this community, the dashboards that I had built with that I had originally built inspired the reporter to work with the developer on a different internet project. And that findings from that research actually found that there are thousands and thousands of residents now in southern Western New York that actually are going to be connected to the internet soon, because they found over 100 miles of dark fiber, so which is internet connectivity that hasn't been hooked up, that was built during the Obama administration, but they had just
oh my goodness,
forgotten it. So me
so
saying, I can't bring internet to all of Western New York, but what the one small thing that I could do, I did. I didn't know it actually did start a chain of other events.
It's a really good point, because you never know what it might lead to. And you should don't be so short-sighted to think that you're just doing one thing and that's it. You never know who might see it, who might pick up on it. Who might tell someone else about it.
YouTube, you've got all these different free channels. You can the world is at your feet. Just pick something up and start running. Even if you fall, that's okay. I've fallen multiple times. I'm sure many of you ladies have fallen on your face in one area or another.
I've got.
And yet we stand.
Scars to prove it. That was a drunken fall, though.
You can be the most gigantic idiot on earth, or you can be brilliant. So what the hell, leap? That's one of my favorite Cynthia Heimel quotes.
Yeah. Great. So we'll start wrapping up, because I know some of you ladies have got other places to be, these little social butterflies. So any final thoughts for specifically women who are at the start of their career and their journey with data? Any tips for them? And
I'll start. On your first no that you might encounter might not be a no finale. It might be a not now. So if you apply for a board and you don't get in, it might just be a not now. I've had that happen to me twice, and I am now on those different boards and activities. So don't worry if you get turned away at the first time.
Yeah, I think, Kimberly, you said something earlier in our conversation where you mentioned there was a room you were looking for, people you were wanting to connect with that didn't exist, so you created it. And I think I want to end on that note from my perspective is, I call it the see her, be heard, right? So kind of being the person you wish you had, or being the mentor that you wish you had for other people. And I think just taking action, also, like you said, just kind of jumping out there and doing something, that'll motivate other people to go ahead and do that thing as well. Even if it's kind of even subconscious, where they're not even sure that that's what's motivating them, but because they see somebody who maybe looks like them, or, is similar, has similar interests doing these things, taking those chances, they're more likely to go ahead and take some of their own chances and hopefully change the world in a better way.
I love that.
And to add on, for more tips, I would say definitely find mentors and role models. And especially it helps if you're a woman in tech, a young woman in tech, maybe find other women in tech that you can follow and learn from their journeys. That's definitely one thing that can help. And then another thing that I think that you can practice on, especially from a young age, And particularly because us as females, we tend to be more humble, maybe a little bit more shy with our accomplishments. So learn how to sell your accomplishments and to sell yourself, but in a good way. And sometimes we're our own worst enemies. Don't do that to yourself. Be proud of what you've done. Learn how to sell it. Learn how to show your success, because it's going to help open doors later on.
I'm going to just touch upon that one a little bit, Christina, as well, is around the idea of the imposter syndrome. So I know a lot of young girls ask me about how they deal with the imposter syndrome, and the honest answer is I still suffer from it. I'm not sure any of us ever completely get that monkey totally off our backs. But my mum once had this brilliant conversation with me when I was talking to her about I didn't think I could do this. I was really worried about what was happening. And I ranted for about half an hour. Mums are great like that. You can just go on and ranted for about half an hour. At the end of it, she went, I understood nothing after, hi, Mum. But it just sounds like you need to put your big girl knickers on and get back out there, Caroline. So, and I think that's probably the best advice I could give one.
Yeah. And I just kind of add to that as well. So it's throughout my kind of career, I've always known that I've been really good at certain things, and then maybe other people have tried to make you believe you're not. So yeah, just keep hold of that self-belief and know what your skills are and use them to your advantage. You know, we can't all be good at everything, but you can definitely elevate the things that you're good at and showcase those.
Can I just add on to that, Susan? Sorry, so it just made me think of something. I've seen so many roles where people go, you know, you need to improve your weaknesses, you need to work on your weaknesses. I actually think you need to work on your strengths. You know, why do we focus on the negative? Why can't we just really go for the positive side of who we are?
I've got a great example of that. When I did higher maths up in Scotland, and knew I'd totally failed it because I just have never been good at maths. And but everyone said, oh, you need math, you won't get a job without your higher maths, your higher grade maths. So I did it, and of course I failed so badly that it didn't even show up on the certificate. And guess what? I've got a business and I'm running it and I'm pretty successful and I've written a book and I'm away to do a TEDx talk. So guess what? It doesn't really matter that I don't have my higher grade maths. It's focus on the bits that you're good at.
Don't let other people's opinions limit who you are.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really great place to end. So thank you so much, ladies, for coming on. That has been amazing. If you want to connect with any of these wonderful ladies, they're tagged in this post. Also, Dedicated website, you can find Kate's event on there. I guess with Business Intelligence, you'll find Kim. What about you, Christina?
Book a Week Challenge for mine.
Book a Week Challenge hashtag. And then Caroline, you've got the CDO Summer School and the Carruthers and Jackson website. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. So I will pop you ladies backstage. So that's it for another week. I am going to take the rest of the week off, which I am really excited about. I have not had a week off in about 3.5 years. I also had a really, really heavy birthday session on Friday, which was amazing. So I am still a little bit hungover from that, but it was worth every single second. So I can't even remember who's on next week, so I will post about that. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.